What's going on, everyone? It's TV, and today we're going to be covering the top 10 mistakes that players make in Roblox BedWars. These are common mistakes that every skill level makes, so whether you're pro or you're a beginner to the game. And so these are going to be the most common ones that I see, whether I'm joining my clan, who I play with often, or even just randoms. Before we go into these, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Starting with number 10 is not paying attention to your bed. So obviously the bed is your goal, right? So you want to break everyone else's beds while protecting your own. The longer you have your bed, the more likely you're going to survive the game or win the game, right? So the more likely you're going to win because you have more chances to live. So it's, you're not going to get one tap by someone. So if someone has a rage blade and then they pearl in on you, there's a good chance you're going to survive that. Whereas without your bed, well, you might die and there you go. GG's. So again, it's important that you have your bed or else you can't respawn, obviously. But a lot of the times I've seen matches, even in 30v30s, where no one's paying attention to the bed. Everyone's at the generator. And I've been in matches, and I'm guilty of this, by the way. I'm fully guilty of this at times where I just don't even pay attention to the bed. I'm just sitting there, I'm talking in chat, VC, and I'm just doing something else. And I'm not really even paying attention to this person with the axe, just axing away at the bed. That's why people rush, because a lot of people don't pay attention to their bed. Now, if you're a pro player, you might not care about your bed most of the time. And that is very conditional depending on the circumstances. If you're up against a bunch of sweats, you definitely don't want to lose your bed. Some of the top clans in my tournament, as soon as they lost their bed, it was pretty much GG, because you have equally skilled players up against each other. And these are all sweats. These are all tryhards, by the way. So it's not like these players are like new to the game. Now, if you're a random Lucky Blocks game or even ranked matches, a lot of time it doesn't matter if you lose your bed, especially if you have a skilled team. You're probably good. It doesn't matter. Someone's gonna clutch it, so you're good. But again, pay attention to your bed. And what you want to do is anytime you're at the generator, make sure you're facing towards your bed. You can also see people a mile away when they're heading towards you, so just call it out. Pay attention to your bed. Even when you're leaving your bed to go to diamonds or something, a lot of times people don't look around to see if anyone's coming to their bed, and they just head straight off to diamonds. And this is like the perfect opportunity to pearl in or to just bridge in. I've seen it so many times. People are coming from diamonds and someone else is leaving the other side to, get their own diamonds, and there goes the bed. In fact, today alone, I was playing in ranked matches with my clan, and they legit left the bed while someone was running straight at it. This is just a very common mistake. Even if you don't care that you have a bed, pay attention if it's broken or not, because sometimes I've seen players, especially skilled players, who take high risks of breaking someone's, bed, or just battling maybe 2-3 players, hoping to get a kill, and then they're in the spectator box and wondering what happened to the bed, and they go, oh, our bed's broken? And that's super common. It's because they're not paying attention. Next up with number 9 is buying the wrong upgrades first. This is super common, and this is because a lot of players, especially common in like 30v30s or if you're in with randoms, a lot of players just don't know what to buy. They're new to the game. They don't really know what to buy. You have tier 0 still. You don't even have a tier 1 generator yet, and they're just sitting there, and then they pick like something completely random, or they get diamonds first or something else. And the reality is your first upgrade should always be tier 1, okay? So there's no question about that. It's doing the wrong upgrades first, or if you're inside a 30v30 and then you're asking people for diamonds because you can upgrade to tier 3, and then guess what happens? They go and spend 6 diamonds, and you just needed a few more for that tier 3, and they go and spend it on a bunch of stuff that they didn't even need, or they'll spend it on like diamond generator or something else when you could have just gotten tier 3. So very important. Best thing to do, if you don't know what to upgrade, just put it in the chest, let someone else upgrade it, and just say, or ask what to upgrade. A lot of players just go and randomly choose things, not really thinking it's like, oh well, these are my diamonds that I acquired, so I should be able to upgrade whatever I want. And then they upgrade like break speed when you needed that tier 1. Now, typically speaking, the best upgrades to get, and of course everyone's going to debate this, but typically speaking, what you want to do is tier 1, get diamond gen next, or tier 2, and then you're going to want to get diamond gen as soon as you can. Alternatively, depending on how well your team's farming and what your play style is and skill level, you might just skip all those diamond generator upgrades and go straight to tier 3, or you might get armor protection next, or you might get damage upgrade next. It really depends, but for the most part, what you're really trying to go for is the tier 3 as soon as you can. That's what everyone's trying to go for. Next up with number 8 is one that's a little hard to do, and you might not know how to do this, and that is triggering anti-cheat. And it's really dependent on your play style. If you're jumping a lot, if you're pearling really fast, if you're ballooning a lot, but especially if you're, you got a lot of speeds, or you're with Uzi, you got to be really careful with the anti-cheat and triggering that. Next up with number 7 is a really annoying one. This one triggers me so much when players do this, and that's walling in, especially in 30v30s or any kind of group matches, or if you're just in a random group. Players are walling in their base, especially, like I said, in 30v30s and in Infected. So if you're playing some kind of group mode and people start walling in, that could actually hinder your team. I've had so many matches, especially in 30v30s, that we couldn't get to our bed in time because people kept blocking in the wall. They kept walling us in, thinking they were protecting our spawn, but the reality is they completely walled us in so we couldn't even get to our bed to protect it. Someone was literally at our bed. We're trying to sit there and try to pickaxe through wool, and it's really, really painful when that happens because you can't get to your bed in time, and on top of that, you can't bow. So if someone's walling in and blocking your view, you can technically be bowing from your spawn, depending on the map especially. Now, the only time you really want to wall in is maybe from the ceiling, so you could definitely wall in your ceiling. That's a good idea so people can't just drop TNT constantly, or just sit there and throw fireballs at you, or use arrows and keep pestering you and kind of harassing you. That's a good idea, is to wall that ceiling in. There are circumstances where it makes sense if you're gearing up and it's maybe a squad game and all of you are inside the base and your bed is gone. At that point, it might make sense to wall up because you can put Teslas around and you can trap players in with you, which is really, really smart. But when you're walling in early game, or when your bed is still available, then it's a really bad idea to wall in. It's a huge mistake. I see a lot of players, it's like the majority of the player base in 30v30s do this. It's a really, really big mistake. So don't do it. Don't wall in. Next up on number 6 is jumping in the void with balloons versus a team who has fire enchants. This is a big one. A lot of players are really dumb about this. They'll jump into the void, or they'll balloon out instead of pearl out while they're burning. And you really don't want to be doing that. Don't mess with players who have fire enchant. If you do get hit by fire, do not jump into the void with balloons. It's a really dumb idea. Your balloons are all going to pop. Even if you have a full set of balloons, you could actually go through them really, really fast. So what you want to do in that situation is, if you have a pearl away. Now, if you are already ballooning and you get hit by fire, you want to pearl out as fast as you can, but ultimately you really want to get out of that void. Do not go into the void when they have fire. It's a bad idea, okay? Next up with number 5 is bringing loot into a fight. This is so common, especially with new players and even intermediate at times. They don't pay attention to what they ran over. A lot of the times I've seen players run straight over generators and go straight into a fight, and then they lose their stuff and basically fed the enemy. This is especially important early game more than anything, because mid to late game, okay, no big deal. You fed them 2 M's or so. It's not that big of a deal. But sometimes I've seen people actually go and fight when they have a full stack of 10 to 20 M's. A really bad idea. Diamonds, it doesn't really matter at that stage, but early game, you really don't want to be running to an enemy base after picking up diamonds, especially 2 to 3 of them or even 4 of them. They can get armor protection that way. They can get armory that way. So you really don't want to be running in with diamonds. And a lot of times I've seen, especially new players, and where are the diamonds? Don't engage with them. You want to run back. You treat them like they're precious gold. Unless you are out gearing another player, you really just want to run them back to the base, especially early game. I've seen so many even experienced players, they get really gutsy and they think they can take another player that has equal items. And for all you know, they could be using kill aura, some hack, and you lose those diamonds and cost us potentially a game because you gave them diamonds. So do not run into a fight that you're probably going to lose with loot, okay? You drop them into the void at a minimum, or you can tuck them away somewhere else for you to get later, especially if you have a good hiding spot. You can drop them and come back for them later. Speaking of feeding, is do not feed Airy and Barbarian. So many times players just go in and then die over and over and over, thinking they're going to eventually, win a fight, especially when they're going in to break beds. A lot of times Barbarians are going to hang out at their base, and especially Ares. Ares even more important than Barbarian, but Barbarian, once he gets that Rage Blade, which doesn't take that much, okay? It doesn't take that much to get it, because you gain rage from damage, not from kills. Unlike Ares gains damage from kills. So Ares has to kill players, which, makes her a little weaker than Barbarian at times, but the plus is that if Ares is basically doing suicide runs on you, meaning she comes into your base, she maybe gets 1 or 2 kills and comes back. She's getting heavier and heavier on her damage by every kill that she makes, and it stays. So if she goes and dies, she doesn't lose that damage. Whereas Barbarian's going to lose that damage if he dies, but he can get that Rage Blade with never leaving his base, okay? So do not do suicide runs against these types of kits. So keep an eye on their kill counts as well. So if you see someone on a team that has a lot of kills, good chance they're Barbarian or Ares. So do not feed them. And when we say that, it means do not die to them, okay? But the reality is Barbarian can gain enough rage off of you from hitting you over and over and over with their bow to eventually get that, Diamond Sword or even Rage Blade later. That's how I grow with Barbarian, as I just sit there and bow people, and I get a couple kills here and there, and then eventually I've got my Diamond Sword or Rage Blade pretty quickly just from bows. So huge mistake. Most players make this mistake, and that is feeding Airy or Barbarian, especially when I'm Airy. Next up with number 3 is not bringing enough blocks. This happens to me and every single person I know that plays the game. A lot of the times they just don't bring enough blocks, and it's not because they miscalculated all the time. A lot of the times it's just because, they might have placed too many on the way, especially if they're going diagonal, or they forget to buy enough because the map is, a little bit bigger. You got to be really mindful of how many blocks you've got and make sure you bring enough blocks, because when you're sitting there and mining blocks behind you, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of wasted time. And this is so common. I love seeing it inside games where you just see someone sitting there and, you know, at pickaxing behind them. It gives me so much time to run over there and just kill them. It's just so easy. You can also bow them off while they're doing that. So even worse when you are getting bowed by someone while you're stuck trying to mine your blocks to get out of somewhere. I've also had circumstances where I've like fallen and I didn't buy any blocks and I can't get out of a situation where I can't get back up. So make sure you get enough blocks and bring enough, you know, otherwise it's a pretty harmless mistake. It just happens to everyone. Next is a really big one, especially if you don't know what generator splitting is. And I've shown you in my other video. Definitely check that video out if you haven't seen it. Pro tips video. But generator splitting is really important in the game, and it is a mechanic and it is a tactic, okay? So this is how you see a lot of teams just get fully stacked really, really fast. And it's because they are generator splitting. Generator splitting is something that all skilled players use, okay? So it's important because essentially you're duplicating iron and you're duplicating emeralds that way, which is really, really nice. So when there's like 120 irons, you know, stuck on your generator, and you split, all of you get 120 iron instead of just you. So that means a huge difference. That means everyone can have iron armor. Now, part of this is sitting on the generator, and that causes a lack of a split. And I'm going to show you how you can properly split and sit on a generator. So the main thing to do is be aware of where your teammates are. If they're alive and your bed's still there, you pretty much want to be splitting, okay? Now, if your bed is broken, you don't have to split all the time, especially if it's a situation where your team's all around and getting, you know, resources. You don't always have to split because they might have taken out another base. Maybe they're using iron from another bed. I mean, there's no way they're going to respawn on your base anymore. So you got to wait for them to come back. So all that time is wasted if you're not, you know, geared up. So again, if your bed is still there, players could be respawning on you. And as soon as they come back, they need the iron to, you know, restock whatever they lost. So maybe they lost a good sword. Maybe they lost some, you know, fireballs. Maybe they need more TNT. Maybe they need to upgrade their tools for breaking beds. And if you're just sitting there on the iron, you really are hurting your team more than you're helping. You're basically griefing your own team. So you want to be sitting to the side here. And as soon as they respawn and then they run over the pool, all of you get that same iron. So it's really important that you do this. Otherwise, you're kind of, like I said, you're missing out on a lot of free iron. Now, number one is a really big one that I see a lot, and that is teaming with hackers, especially with ranked having so many hackers right now. There are a lot of players who are teaming with hackers, even unintentionally. And what's happening is the biggest mistake out of this is not so much the fact that you randomly got placed with a hacker. The mistake is that you're not lobbying or leaving the game. You're sitting there and saying, oh no, my team has a hacker. What do I do? And then you continue to play with that hacker. I think part of this is a little bit of selfishness on the player's part. Like maybe they're thinking, oh, well, you know what? I didn't really choose to be with a hacker, but maybe I can get a free win out of this. That's a big mistake right there, is that you are essentially being okay with someone hacking. You're endorsing that hacker by staying on that team. And I lost a match earlier today to a team that essentially did that. So we lost our bed because we were getting teamed by a hacker in another team, and we lost it. So we lost the match because of that, and the team, you know, apologized at the end, sorry for the hacker, but that doesn't make it right. They got a free win because they got carried by a hacker. And the other risk of this is you could get reported for boosting. Now, there are specific criteria for having a proper ranked boosting report, but if you're found a lot with the same hacker and a lot of reports, that could be bad, okay? So the right thing to do anytime you're with a hacker, and I've done this a lot, is just type in /lobby, just let everyone know inside the match that, you know, there's a hacker on my team, and just do a /lobby so that you don't get caught up with them or, you know, any kind of false bans or anything like that. But teaming with hackers could result in a ban from the game, so don't risk it. Just do /lobby. So I'm sure a lot of you have made these mistakes just like I have, except for, you know, obviously teaming with hackers. That's something that I don't do. If there are other mistakes that you think players make often in Bed Wars, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious. I'd love to see those. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video with some of your tips. Also, if you have any pro tips for players, let me know in the comments below as well. I'm going to be doing another pro tips video pretty soon, and I might include your tips. So definitely send those in the comments below. I'd love to read them. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next vid. Peace.